month ago, the Chibok girls were abducted by the Abubakar Shekau-led terrorist group called Boko Haram. That singular event and abduction has generated wide interest, concern, and condemnation across continents of the world. The slogan, "Bring back our girls," is now one of the most popular slogans in the world today. Abubakar Shekau, in a video footage, paraded about 100 girls, supposedly some of the Chibok girls that were abducted about a month ago. And it came with an offer of a swap between Boko Haram prisoners and, of course, the girls. I'm privileged to have in the studio a retired director of the State Security Service and, of course, a renowned security consultant, Barrister Mike Ejiofor. Barrister, welcome on the program.
Thank you very much.
Abubakar Shekau, in the video footage, paraded some of the girls, the Chibok girls, and it came with an offer, a swap deal. Release Boko Haram prisoners and release your girls. Do you see this as a welcome development?
Well, I will first of all start by reacting to the footage, the video. First, it gives hope that if they're actually the girls, they are alive and they are not in any danger or harm. Secondly, is the state governor directed that it mass produced. So far, the state government too has come out with information that some of them have been positively identified.
About 77 of them.
About 77 of them, or 74, I'm not too sure of the number, have been positively identified as girls of that school. Okay. So that also gives hope. But again, I also still have my reservations on whether those girls are the actual girls. But since we don't have any cause to doubt the governor who said the parents have identified the girls. So coming to your question, I don't think those girls have anything to do with this crisis. So they should not in any way be used as a swap for the release of detained insurgents. That is my position, and I appeal to the Boko Haram for them to unconditionally release those girls. It has raised a lot of concerns, both within and outside Nigeria. The international community is condemning it. Everybody is condemning it, that the girls should be released. I don't think there's any basis for the insurgents to ask for. So
you are saying emphatically that government should not negotiate with the terrorists?
I'm not saying government should not negotiate with on this incident, on this. I'm not saying that government should not negotiate with.
I mean, on this particular deal,
there's no basis. That's my position. There's no basis for negotiation. Those girls are innocent of what they are being held for, so they should not be used as a bait in any way. I don't support it.
Okay, but somebody did say something earlier this week that somebody who's been involved in negotiating and a go between the government and Boko Haram, that if Boko Haram is now saying that they are ready to swap, that is a sign that they are ready for negotiations, and we should not miss the opportunity. What do you think about that?
Well, the issue of you don't put something on nothing. The girls should not be used for negotiation at all. So I don't see how government can lose that opportunity when it has not offered that position. I, in fact, believe that those girls, the Boko Haram, possibly apprehensive of a government invasion of that forest, possibly decided to use these girls as shield, because it will be difficult now for you to go into Sambisa forest to invade or raid that place to secure the release of them. You eventually put the lives of these girls in danger.
You are a security consultant. Somebody did say at a time that if Sambisa has become a forest of 1,000 demons, why can't we dry it up? Even before now, why did we wait this long for Sambisa to become a demon and a monster?
Well, I have not been to Sambisa Forest, but from what I have read and the accounts I have, people, there's a very vast area with a very difficult terrain. And I think they are exploiting the advantage of their knowledge of that particular area to use the Sambisa Forest as a base. You don't forget, too, that they had so many bases, so many camps before the introduction of the state of emergency, which led to the destruction of many of their camps. So I think this particular forest has where they come out and tell government, tell Nigerians what they are human beings. They can operate now because it's a dry season. The rains will soon come, and they'll be forced out of that forest. But with the intervention of the international community, the US is involved in assisting us, Britain is involved, China and other countries are willing to assist us. So I think this very adventure of Boko Haram of seizing these girls is a law carried too far. And if they had any sympathy before from people, this one has virtually destroyed whatever sympathy they had from people before.
Thank you. Now, you just mentioned the intervention of foreign communities, America, Israel, China, France, United Kingdom, and other countries are offering their services. Do you see this as a possible development, number one? And do you see by deploying high-tech technology, you'll be able to comb Sambisa forest and use surveillance to detect what do you think will happen?
Well, you see, offering of foreign assistance has its own advantages and disadvantages. But I believe that Nigeria knows what it wants in terms of national interest and foreign interest. So we'll be able to draw a line. What Nigeria has done is to assist and ensure that these girls are released safely. But don't forget that terrorism is a global war. It is not fought by one country because it's a cross-border crime. You need the collaboration of other countries to fight terrorism. You just noted too, I'm sure you read it in the news, of one of the Oguche who was declared wanted. And through collaboration, he has been arrested by the State Security Service and through the intervention of Interpol in Sudan. So if we don't have that collaborative effort, it becomes a big problem for ready. I'm sure Sudan is ready to extradite the Oguche back to Nigeria. So that is why it's important that this war is fought globally through collaboration with other countries. But some people also argue that, wherever America visits, they have their footprints and all what kind of view. Nigeria is a big country. I think we have come to the stage of knowing what we want at any given time. So I don't think there should be any cause for fear. Okay.
Now,
we should be able to define our interests.
Thank you. Still talking about the foreign intervention, during the World Economic Forum, Mr. President made a statement that it appears this is the beginning of the end of terrorism. That the abduction of the Chibok girls, and of course, vis-a-vis the intervention of renowned nations of the world and foreign intervention, that there's obviously Boko Haram has beaten more than what they can chew. Do you believe that?
Yeah, that's what I said, that if they had any sympathy before, you can imagine as a father, your daughter abducted, even if it's one, let's forget about number this time. Even if it's one girl, the life of any person means a lot. So by taking people who are innocent, who have nothing to do with this business, taking them, whatever sympathy they had from other people, even from the international community, people who are supporting them, will not support them anymore. So I think the president is right by saying that this is the beginning of the end of the activities of Boko Haram.
Yeah. Since talking about Mr. President, I've read it said severally by Nigerians and of course some people who are concerned about what is happening in Nigeria abroad, Now, Mr. President, and indeed the presidency, acted a bit too late. Do you believe Mr. President was doing some things underneath before he manifested it in the public domain? Or he acted late?
Well, you see, the issue is that the president is the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Well, the buck stops on his table. Yeah. He cannot just take a decision without proper briefing from the security agencies who are in the field. He is not in the field.
For 2 weeks?
Well, he cannot work without information. And take, for instance, as I'm talking to you now, nobody is sure of the exact number of girls that are taken. So the first time, they said 8. Some people said 200 and some say over 200. As I'm talking to you now, nobody is sure of the exact figure.
But the principal came out when the DHQ said, I mean defense headquarters said that about 8 girls were still within the, were still being held captive. The principal came out and said 234 of the girls have not returned to their parent. There are 52 had returned by then, but 234 were still missing. And last week, the president, after sanctioning, after approving that the video should be mass produced, that 77 have been identified out of the girls. Do you think we are still confused about the figures?
To you now, nobody is sure of the figure, including the principal of the school. Nobody is sure of the figure.
Why is that?
Well, because the principal is the first person who is supposed to keep the records. But from all this, you can see on TV and every other sources that she has not been able to account for the number of students he has.
But why came out boldly at a meeting with the wife of Mr. President that about 188 of the girls, they were able to identify about 188 in the figures quoted by WAEC at that meeting. And of course, Northern Can also came out to support the claim of the principal.
We should not overflow this issue. As I'm talking to you, the principal does not know the number of students. So until a proper investigation is carried out, and it's going to be difficult, I think the best thing to do is possibly liaise with WAEC, know the exact number of students that registered in that center.
That's right.
Know the number of males and females, because some of them are external students. Some of them are external students. So it's difficult for you to know the number of students that were in school. It would have been a very easy thing if the principal did, whether it's a man or a woman, did her job, you know. One, she would have been able to know the number of students who were writing exams at that particular day, those that were in dormitory
that particular
night, or those that are in the dormitories for a period of writing the exam, because, you know, after exams, some of them also leave the school. So it's difficult until the principal is the first person to give account of the number of students he has. And he has to give account.
Perhaps against the backdrop of this confusion about the figures, Mr. President inaugurated a fact-finding presidential committee on Chibok girls under the chairmanship of the vice president. Do you see this as a right step in the right direction?
Well, that's the point I'm making. Possibly the fact-finding commission or committee should be able to go down to Chibok, interact with various stakeholders, which I also believe that the other security agencies have done. But since it's a presidential directive, I think they will be in a better position to interact with all the stakeholders and come out with a report that will be given to Nigerians.
That is concerned, what could have brought confusion in the number of figures? I mean, abduction is not an issue to play politics with. Do you smell politics in all this?
I don't want to comment on that, but I see some elements of politics in it. Whether one person was abducted or not is immaterial. A life of somebody is involved. But for the number, I think there's a little politics. Well, I'm not saying for sure, but until the committee comes out with a report, or somebody comes out to give you the exact figure, that's the only one who can take it.
What is important, even with a girl, it's worth pursuing.
Oh yes, with one person, it's worth pursuing. Even if it's one, it means a lot. In Nigeria, the life of a Nigerian is involved. So we must take it very seriously. The international community is also taking it very seriously.
Yeah, Chibok episode was not the first time Boko Haram was attacking school in the northeast. What security surveillance do you think government should provide for all these schools in the northeast?
You see, that's the unfortunate aspect of this incident. Because although I was watching a TV station this morning when the spokesperson, the SA media to the governor, was making a defense, there was a directive from the Minister of Education that students should be relocated to safe places, including Chibok. But the state government went ahead to encourage WAEC to conduct examination in that place. And besides, you know, the defense of the SA media is also tenable, because he said that Chibok was not among the unsafe places.
Hitherto,
this incident. But I also believe that they should have also put in place more adequate security measures to ensure the safety of those girls. So until the committee comes out with it, I don't want to make comments on their job until it is done, so that we don't prejudice their functions.
Okay. Well, I was asking you about what should government do or security agencies do to provide adequate security to make schools safe. Schools are supposed to be safe haven for students, where they look up to, where they want to go to associate to.
Well, with what is going on now, it's really unfortunate that these incidents are taking place. It's going to be difficult to provide security for all the schools. Mm-hmm. We should not shy away from it. Nigeria police has less than 400,000. And the United Nations data statistics is one policeman to 400. Now we have 160 million, right or wrong. We have less than 400, so we can go and do the mathematics and see. And when people call on the police, I sympathize with them. The security agencies, they're understaffed. And we should not say because we have security challenges, we should also neglect other subsectors of the economy. The government has to build infrastructure, although without security, there won't be any meaningful development. So that's why everybody is concerned that security must be provided. But we should encourage our security agencies in providing security, because security should be the business of everybody. I was reading this morning, I was quite happy, whether it is true or not, that a community ran out, one community
yes.
like that took on
the vigilante group, Boko Haram.
Took on the people, and
they suppressed them.
I don't want to make comment whether it is true or not that 200 of Boko Haram people were killed.
But
and
the fact that you were able to
the same story,
rise up to
we were
them.
told that they came with armored personnel carriers, and so if you put the stories side by side, it becomes a problem to believe. But at least that they took the initiative to confront Boko Haram, it should be commended.
Now, on the last note, in the interim where we await the arrival of these girls and their return to their parents, what measures should government take so that Boko Haram does not get violent and start behaving to type by murdering the innocent girls?
No, with the consciousness and awareness of the international community and the concerns raised by everybody, it will be foolhardy for them to harm those girls. So I think the government should put all measures in place to ensure the safety release of those girls and alive. That's my take on it.
And should shun negotiation?
No negotiation with those girls. Those girls should be released unconditionally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Viewers, that has been Barrister Mike Ejiofor speaking on the Chibok girls and way out of the crisis. Up next,